Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another issue of Hops Geek News. We are a podcast that talks about news, of course, and we talk about movies, comic books, TV shows. All the while, we drink some of the best beers. I'm going to go ahead and say it, some of the best beers, because we don't
That's
drink
very
that
true.
shit. Don't bring that weak shit around here.
All
So,
right, brother.
listen here, brothers. Don't bring that weak
I don't
shit.
drink no light beer.
I don't got no Coors Light. You know, I got my Miller Lite. I saved that PBR for the NASCAR races. Speaking of
Just
NASCAR,
don't look
that's
at our
back.
Instagram because there's a Coors on our Cobra
There
Kai
is a Coors
episode
on our Cobra
page.
Kai episode. That's because he was drinking a Coors Light, so that's okay.
Coors
I'm okay with
Banquet.
that. Today's episode, we don't really have any news. Maybe like one or two things, but we do have a special guest with us, and it's going to be the Oblivion Bar Podcast. They are wicked cool dudes, I believe. No, not that I believe. I know they're wicked cool dudes. What I meant to say was that it is Chris who's going to be joining us. And yeah, we're going to have a good time. So we'll get to that in just a moment, where we're going to talk about sympathetic villains, because there are bad guys out there, but are all of them really that bad? Probably not.
Well, some of them weren't loved as children. Actually, all of them weren't loved
Some
as
of them
children.
have mom issues, some have dad issues, some of them have girlfriend, boyfriend issues, and
A lot of them are orphans.
they're not bad people. Okay, they're not bad.
Well,
But
they are bad people. We just feel bad about how they got bad.
they're bad, but they have a point, and they're not that bad. Okay,
They're not bad. They're drawn that way.
Anyways, we are going to talk about what are we drinking? We're drinking the same beer again. That's two. That's
We
two in a
are.
row. Hell yeah, let's go.
I know.
We
Which
should
this
have this
is
on YouTube.
fantastic.
This week, so go ahead and show it. It's Masked Landing, their Gunner's Daughter Milk Stout. I can talk. It's from my stomping grounds of Massachusetts. Masked Landing. I'm just kidding. They're not from Massachusetts. They're actually up in
They're
Maine.
from Maine.
So it's all the same to me. Massachusetts invented America. Therefore, all of New England is Massachusetts. That's honest to God how it is for everybody. Okay.
This
You
is
say you're
not a
from
history
Boston,
podcast.
but you're literally saying, like, some people be like, I'm from Boston, but really they're like from New Hampshire or some shit. So anyways, this is a aromatic milk stout with bold flavors of peanut butter, coffee, dark chocolate. It's only surprisingly 5.5%. And every time I drink it, I pick up a little something extra, and I always get peanut butter cup vibes, though. It tastes like a peanut butter cup, and it's delicious.
It is. It's very smooth. It kind of reminds me of the Barbarian we drank the other day.
Yeah.
So we're 2 for 2 with these delicious peanut butter.
We're killing it with the stouts.
chocolate
Your boy
beers.
is hooking up the stouts.
He is hooking it up.
Holla at your boy.
Florida, shockingly, is actually known for like some amazing stouts. And I find it funny. We had on our Hops News episode one day. Somebody made that comment. They're like, yeah, man, down in Florida, they make these like crazy barrel-aged stouts and it's hot all the time, but it's always stout season. So we make some like Angry Chair, man. Oh,
Angry Chair.
So good.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
You haven't heard of Angry Chair? They're in Tampa.
What's Angry Chair? Is that the chair I get to sit in because I'm always grouchy?
You know, there's actually a story behind it. I think it's like a music reference or something. I'll look into it and I'll post the story next time because I learned it on a beer podcast that's local. And they interviewed him. And so there's a whole thing. It might be music related.
They did 2 episodes and then died.
No, they were around for a while. They stopped doing episodes when COVID hit. This is What Ails Ya. But anybody who's going to like Florida breweries, like if, you know, there's some you want to know about, like he's done a bunch of interviews with a bunch of brewery owners. So it's on Spotify and all those places. So that's What dope. Ails Ya? Yeah, great podcast. They interview a lot of awesome breweries.
I love puns.
I know, it's a great fun. And I have the shirt too. It's an awesome logo with like a skeleton drinking hops. But I realize I say a lot. So if you're listening, anytime I say you just take a sip and you'll be trashed by the end.
Unless you're at work, you better be hydrating at the cooler.
Take a sip of your coffee. You be wired. I'm not going to look this up now. I will look it up later. I'm like Googling Angry Chair Brewing.
Well,
but I'll have that for you next week. But yeah, they make amazing stouts. There was the first time I went to their brewery, it was like every beer I took a sip of, I felt like was growler worthy. Like this is worthy of bringing home a whole growler.
And a growler, whole growler. She didn't just say a 4-pack. She said a whole growler. She wants the whole.
Well, they're not one that really, well, they can now, but this was a while ago before they can.
They can now, would you say? Thank you. Thank you. I'm here all night. Thank
They
you.
can.
All right.
They got the cans.
Enough funny business over there.
Okay, with the dad jokes.
We don't really have news, but did we fuck anything up last week when we talked with our mystery host about WandaVision? Is there anything we messed up? I don't think, because I thought any slip ups that we had, we actually caught in house. So those don't count.
Might have. I usually review the episodes, and I have not reviewed that one because we just recorded and dropped it. So
that's true.
Well, once this episode airs, though, WandaVision will have come out. So then everybody will be like, haha, you guys were completely wrong.
Gotcha,
So
bitch.
We probably did. We just don't know yet.
It's true. So we didn't fuck anything up because we literally just recorded 2 days ago. So we didn't fuck anything up. And the little bit of news we have is everybody's not favorite, because I cannot stand this actress. And so the 5 seconds she's going to be in Thor, Love and Thunder is going to be the worst excruciating pain of ever. If anybody ever wants to torture me, just go ahead, strap me down, and make me watch Melissa McCarthy films on repeat, because there is nothing worse in this world than a movie that has Melissa McCarthy in it. She is
a Bridesmaid.
God, I hate that movie. I don't like Melissa McCarthy. Any movie she may hear this and be like, wow, what did I do to you? Why did I hurt? Well, you know what you did to me? You starred in fucking movies. That's what. Whoa. That's what you did to hurt me. God.
Where did she touch you? Show me on this doll.
Worst. Just the worst. She's so not funny. She's so annoying. Her face just bothers me.
Jeez.
God bless. Like,
she feels very personal.
Just the war. Like, she's not good. She's not even a good actress at all.
I like her in Bridesmaids. I think she's
always
hilarious.
So like gross looking, and she's just not.
She is gross looking in
funny
Bridesmaids,
at
but she's
all.
Supposed to be.
So like not funny mixed in with like, yeah, sure, I'm not funny, but you know what? Whatever. She's getting paid more money than I am, and I'm just sitting here like a fucking buffoon.
You know, her and Jenny McCarthy are cousins.
That's really.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's something related. Pretty sure they're cousins.
They don't even look like they're on the same plane of existence.
Sure they do.
No, they don't. Both of them are shitty humans. That's what. Okay, there you go. Next. Anyway,
a lot of animosity in that comment.
She's playing Hela in the fake movie that they're going to be making within Thor: Love and Thunder. Well, not a movie, the play, just like we saw in Ragnarok. Yeah, that's how it's going to be. So she's playing in that. Surprise! Yay! Raya in The Last Dragon got outstanding reviews. That's going to be out already by the time we recorded this, so it'll be out this Friday. So it'll have been out. So I look forward to watching that. I think you have to pay for it on Disney Plus.
That's what I was wondering, if you had to pay for that one.
Theaters and Disney Plus. So if you're in Texas, where literally everything is open again, you don't have to wear a mask, and we beat COVID, even though you can't even take care of your fucking pipes from freezing, then go out to the theater, I guess. Go catch it.
Raya is going to be, it looks like $30 on Disney Plus, so you're going to have to upgrade if you want to watch it.
Oh, so they're going to give us that movie, but they're not going to give us Black Widow?
Because Black Widow stands to make so much more, I'm sure. No, that must be an MCU decision. I don't know.
Bogus.
I've said I keep upping my number. I will pay $500 now to see Black Widow.
You're literally going to tell me that you're going to put a really good animated movie out, but then you're just going to totally ignore Black Widow. The character's been dead. Like, just put the movie out, man.
Spoilers. For Raya, though, if you don't want to pay the $30 and you have Disney Plus, June 4th, it'll be available to everybody.
Or you can just pirate it. Fuck you.
I'm not buying it again. We bought Mulan, and I'm like, what? I mean,
and then
I guess
2
it was
months
a nice
later,
movie night, but we could have waited. Yeah.
I bought.
Yeah.
I didn't buy, but I rented Willy's Wonderland. That was worth $20. But I'm not gonna. I'm not giving Disney my money. I want them to falter.
I give Disney my money all the time.
No, I'll give them my money. I'm gonna be giving them my money,
but I'm not giving them my money.
But I'm not giving them money for this. Black Widow, I would, but not for this. Like, geez,
Black Widow.
High horse, Kevin Feige. You guys have made enough money. You're not hurting. Put this movie out already.
If they're holding it too, because it's like a prequel, it doesn't really affect anything going forward, I'm assuming. So are they gonna hold off on the other movies on was it Shang-Li or Eternals? I mean,
Shang-Chi.
Or are they Shang-Chi? Like, I feel like those ones, if they delay those, then they have to keep delaying everything. Whereas Black Widow, if they delay it, I guess it doesn't really impact anything.
That's kind of sad though, especially because she's like the first Marvel solo female superhero, and
she's been around since Iron Man 2, so she's been in this franchise longer than almost anybody.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you. I'm telling you. You preach it, sister.
Finally got the
You
movie.
tell them
and
how
look
it
what happens.
is.
Oh, I will.
Good.
But yeah, I don't really have
That's-
any news.
It's kind of all
Well,
the
have
news
you
I
read
have
or
as
watched
well.
anything in the last 2
I
days?
have. I've been reading Future State, so I read Dark Detective issue number 4. That kind of wraps up the saga with the Magistrate. If you're reading that at all, I enjoyed it. I didn't read Death Metal. That was a series DC did, but apparently from the ashes of Death Metal rises Future State. And so I have the Suicide Squad issues, and I actually have Shazam as well. I just haven't read them
Oh.
yet. So I'm going to get to those. So next episode, I'll talk about those. But I did read Batman, Dark Detective, and like I said a million times, Bruce Wayne's dead. But is he dead? Is he dead? Is Batman dead? I don't know. Lucius Fox's son in Future State is actually the current Batman. So that's kind of cool. It's pretty rad. And that's kind of all I read. I haven't watched anything. I'm going to get around after this to watching the Harley Quinn TV show. So I'll start that finally. Yeah, I heard it was very good. Everyone on
Actually,
Twitter.
wasn't Quips and Dips the mystery?
It was. So actually,
about that?
yeah, I want to give a couple shout outs real quick. Shout out to past guest Quips and Dips mystery host. She was a box full of knowledge. She knew her stuff, and it was awesome. She was great. We're going to be having the Unexpected podcast, who I've been talking with them a lot because the one host, Caitlin, is a Canadian. And so I've been trying to get her to make me a Canadian citizen and tell me what I need to do to become a Canadian citizen, because that's my lifelong dream.
Just
and
then, not cold enough where you live.
I've also been trying to convince them to become a Green Bay Packers
everywhere.
fan. Okay. But they're Seahawks fans. One of them is. And I've been trying to convince them, Scotch and Sports, the dudes over there. One of them's a Falcons fan, but the Green Bay Packers fan. Mike is the Falcons fan. No one cares about him. But we're trying to make them choose the Packers. So that's kind of like some stupid shit's going on. We have Watching Comics. We're going to be talking about New Mutants. I'm going to be watching that
I got to watch that.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching that soon. We're going to be talking New Mutants. And then
we're a little scared. If you can't hear it in our voice, we're a little scared.
Arya Stark. She's going to kill the Night King again or whatever it is. I don't know.
Whoa. I wouldn't say anything like that. That's a show like people I feel like will continually watch, and you can't.
Nobody's watching season 8 of Game of Thrones. No.
Sure, there are people. Like, I feel like that is one of those shows, like people who didn't watch it. Because everybody watches that show. My daughter. I'm going to
save you all. Don't watch season 8 of Game of Thrones. It's a waste of fucking time.
There are enjoyable parts. There are definitely parts that surprise people.
By the way, in case you haven't told, this is my
well, I'm not very sympathetic to this.
So, yeah, anyways, then we're going to do Jock Doc Podcast. They are improv based around medical knowledge. So we're going to hop on there. They're going to hop on here. And that's what kind of we have coming down the pipe. Hopefully we have a game for movies going to be coming on. And then we might be talking Godzilla with For Nerds by Nerds. So that's exciting as well. And Geek Peak, we are setting up some pretty exciting stuff with Geek Peak because we've hit it off with those guys over there, and they're awesome dudes. And so yeah, and I just want to say thank you for listening. I know there's a bunch of you out there listening. There's a podcast called Kids What Are We Watching in the UK. Their podcast is so wholesome and so much fun to listen to, and they seem to enjoy us as well. So it's always nice.
Oh, I did they were ones that wanted a sticker. Oh, they're an international one. All stickers went out except for the 2 international ones and yours, because I have to go to the post office tomorrow.
Bitch.
To get more stamps. Well, yours isn't sent out yet because I'm obviously sending you a bunch. So.
Yes, yeah. I'm going to be slapping them babies everywhere. So if you want a sticker, let us know. DM us. And do we have anything else?
DM us.
Sin Demas, righteous.
The boys has started recording. I know we talked about them being quarantined recently. I don't know if we talked about them being actually filming. Homelander, was it Anthony or whatever his name is? He's posting stuff with his boots on and his outfit on, and he's ready to go. There's articles that a bunch of the Supernatural writers are going over to the boys, and there's a lot of mixed reactions on that. Like, whoever wrote the last 2 episodes of Supernatural better not be going over there to ruin the boys. A lot of animosity over the last 2 episodes, and I'm on that bandwagon as well. But we'll see. It's good. There's a bunch of Supernatural people going over there, so I'm excited. But I haven't really watched anything or read anything other than like falling asleep to Supernatural last night. But I have a lot to watch. I got to watch Lord of the Rings. I got to watch all these Godzilla movies. I got to watch New Mutants. So I'm going to be pretty busy.
We have Justice League
watching
in
stuff for
short period of time too.
And 4 hours of Justice League. My God.
Oh man, that's 4 hours of pure sexual experience right in your
I
face.
feel like I'm gonna have to seriously like spread that out over 4 days. I don't know if I can sit there.
Get your fucking
and
life
watch.
together over there, Hoppy.
I need to look at my life and my choices.
Very hostile over here today. I don't know why. I think I know why. It's because I've been in this
You
class.
are pretty hostile.
I'm sorry. I've been sitting in this class all week that's going to go until next Wednesday, and it's literally 8 hours of listening to somebody on Zoom read off of PowerPoints, and there's 80 of us in this class, and I'm going to fucking kill myself. I'm going to kill myself.
Or Melissa McCarthy.
If by the time you listen to this,
like her.
I'm dead, then this is my suicide note. Y'all fucking killed me because you made me do this PowerPoint for 8 hours a day, and I'm going to kill myself. So there's that. But on a happy note,
escalated quickly.
Without further ado, let's get into sympathetic villains and the villains that we sympathize with. Because you got my villain origin story, and now we're going to go talk about villains that aren't necessarily bad guys. And enjoy this delicious portion of our podcast. Welcome back from that short break, everybody. We are here, once I said, talking sympathetic villains. And our guest today is Chris from the Oblivion Bar Podcast. And how you doing, man?
Doing really well. Thank you guys for having me on here. I really appreciate you guys bringing me on here for this awesome topic. I know when we initially talked about collaborating, our two worlds colliding with the Oblivion Bar and Hot Geek News kind of coming together, we were thinking about what would be a great topic. And sympathetic villains is a great way to bring us together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You guys do a lot of great stuff over there. I've been listening to you. You've been getting into my weekly rotation. I know.
Oh yes.
It's so hard because there's so many podcasts. And
yeah.
But I'm fortunate I have a job that I can just like play podcasts all day because it's kind of just me. I'm like working by myself, especially working from home sometimes and things of that nature. So I found a lot of time, or I'll go to the gym and listen to podcasts. So you guys have worked your way into the rotation. You're in the starting five.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that. I don't want to take your thunder. So give a little background, let everyone know what it's about.
Well, I appreciate you putting us in the rotation. That's kind of what we're striving for at the Oblivion Bar. So my co-host Aaron and I, we started off as friends in the military back in the early 2010s. He had been in for a little bit longer than I had been. I was a bright new face in the military, and he was my superior. And somehow we got on the topic of, if you are familiar with the Oblivion Bar podcast, if you listen to the previous episode, we went into extreme detail about our love for Daft Punk. And that's kind of like the catalyst for our friendship. We started one day talking about how much we love Daft Punk, and initially that blossomed into a real friendship. And I eventually started coming to his house pretty much every weekend because he lived off base, and we would go karaokeing, and we would hit up Savannah, which is where we're currently stationed at while at Fort Stewart. And it became a real friendship from there on. And many years had gone by. We still kept in touch, and we still continued to talk about all the nerdy things that we always did. And then COVID-19 happened, and we always kind of had this idea of we should do like some kind of maybe like web series or just like a sit down and talk. We think we're more, funny, and we're funnier and more important and more valued in information than we actually are. But COVID-19 gave us that opportunity to finally put our heads together and come up with an idea, and podcast seemed like the natural progression. Like I said, we've been doing it since April of 2020. And the Oblivion Bar, that's my long way around of saying that the Oblivion Bar, a nerd culture podcast, is essentially Aaron and I talking about the week in review of all things nerd. We usually do news and notes to start off the show. Then we have like a main topic, whether that's, top 10, a movie review, video game review, film review, or sorry, not film review. I just said film review. TV show review, in-depth discussion. We have a fun segment we call like Battle Royale. We both pick 6 fighters, and then we create interesting scenarios where we try to decide who wins those fights. That we usually save those for like big episodes, and those are a lot of fun. And then
for the big episode,
like the landmarks, we did one for like, I think episode 20 was like one of the episodes that we did our last Battle Royale. So the Oblivion Bar, a nerd culture podcast. It's a lot of fun. We have new episodes every Monday, and we'll wait to do all the links and social medias and all the other housekeeping at the end.
We'll do it at the end. We'll make sure we plug also.
But I did
in the description. We'll put all your links and stuff too when the episode drops. So when this drops, all the links will also be there in case you forgot.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
But yeah, whenever we have a guest on, I always like to go through and listen to some random ones and the most recent one. So I listened to your most recent one and a little bit of, you did a Halloween one and then the boys one. And I don't know which one of you called the boys comic torture porn, but I laughed aloud. That was so funny because I've read it. And like, as soon as I started reading it, I was like, holy shit, like this is like porn.
Like the first panel, panel is like, shield the ears of any kids that are potentially listening right now, but it's a woman bent over and some superhero basically penetrating her right then and there. And it's just like, that opens you with the very first shot. And that's not even the
mild.
Exactly. Yeah. That's your entryway into the boys, So yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Did you continue reading it or no?
It
sounded like you stopped.
Yeah. So, I'm not PC. I don't really care about a lot of, I can find the humor and the, value and a lot of things like that. But I got about 6 issues in, and not only was it not really my taste, content, but I just didn't really enjoy the story as much. I feel like, and I say it in that review of The Boys season 2,
right?
I feel like the show really flushes out a lot of those characters that you don't really spend a lot of time with in the comic.
Right.
You don't really,
like the G-Men and stuff, which now they're supposed to be doing a spinoff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you've got like Homelander, who you don't really even get to know that much until much later in the series. And by the time that you do, I just didn't really care to continue on with it. It's a rare occurrence where I prefer the TV show over the comic,
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was wondering, if maybe you picked it up again later, because I actually did follow through and it got much better. And the twist at the end really took me I was shocked. I did not see that coming at all.
Interesting. But, I love Garth Ennis. I love his and I want to say it's Steve Dillon. Their run on The Punisher is one of my all-time favorites. So I will have to give it another look and try to get past some of the more gruesome panels.
I mean, there are times it does get a little, because you got Hero-gasm, but Eric Kripke's come out and said Hero-gasm's happening in season 3. So we'll see how they, how they
it's
handle
not going to
that.
be like it was from the comics, but yeah.
Yeah, they'll do some kind of version of that.
I got to say,
but yeah.
I'm really jealous, first of all, that, you found somebody as nerdy and all that stuff as you in the military, because I don't know what it is, but the only people that I ever seem to like know and be around the Air Force anyways, because that's what I'm in. Shout out to the OSI agent who's probably listening to this to make sure I don't fucking say anything stupid and get arrested. But yeah, they all they do is like the hunting and camping, all that. And like, look, I like camping. I've honestly personally never been hunting, but nobody is ever in that nerdiness as at my level. So I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. They're all in the Army apparently.
Well, I've always kind of seen the military as like an extension of high school.
Oh yeah.
I feel like the military is, I won't even say that. Here, I'll take that one step further. I'll say the military is like your first 2 years of college. So, you basically work for the weekend, you're out partying every Thursday through Sunday. And in the same, way as like college or even high school again, it's kind of uncool to be into those kind of things for some reason. I mean, I feel like we're at a point in our culture now where nerd culture is kind of pop culture.
We're finally cool.
Right. Exactly. All this useless knowledge is finally coming back around and making me a little bit more of a fun person to hang out with at a party. Yeah. But people are finally like, oh my gosh, have you seen episodes 8 of WandaVision? Can you believe it? Like, spoilers, but White Vision. Oh my God. I'm like, yeah, they did that in the comics back in like 2007. So, it like these things are finally coming back around, and the military, there wasn't many of us, right? Like Aaron and I, we kind of gravitated to each other only because we were two people who were very much into nerd culture. And it blossomed into a real friendship from there. So I hope that one day you find, I mean, you have Lauren here who, indulges in the nerdum, if you will.
She's in the finer things of life.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's funny how you said that though. I wasn't into any of this in high school. I got into all of it later. Mm-hmm. And so a lot, like none of my friends were ever into it either. And the few that were, we didn't know until years later when, Thanos pops up at the end of Avengers and Sean's like, that's Thanos. And we're like, how the hell did you know that? Like, I've been reading these since high school and didn't tell anybody.
Yep. That was the funny part of the original Avengers movie is, basically when Thanos turns his head ever so slightly at the end of that film, 20% of the theater knew who that was, and the other 80% were like, who is this big purple, as Star-Lord says, a grimacing looking guy, who is this guy? And then as we get to slowly get closer to him, and of course in Guardians 1, we figure out who it is. But yeah, it's funny, these small little tidbits, like even Billy and Tommy in WandaVision, these are two really important characters in the Marvel Universe currently with Wiccan and Speed. And I think Hulkling and Wiccan are about to tie the knot or get together in some serious way in the comics, which is really cool. So, these characters are established, and, you can only hope that those two actually get out of the TV show. So,
Yeah,
right. But,
sure.
I still have friends though that, a few years ago I had one friend like, how are we friends that you're into this? And then one of my friends stopped by today and that was never into the stuff and was asking me questions about WandaVision. So
Sure.
what's going on in this episode? Why did that happen? What's
They're
this?
like, I have no idea.
It is, when you said like, oh, I
we
have
don't
these
know.
things, right? That's exactly what I
None
told
of
her.
us actually.
I'm like, well,
know.
here's all the things. And she was asking me questions too. Like, well, she was asking me like, who is Vision? Isn't he Jarvis? And didn't Tony make him? And so I had to go into the whole, well, technically Ultron and Jarvis was this. And I was,
Yeah.
and I'm like trying to explain it. And she's like, well, what about the Mind Stone? How'd she make Vision without the Mind Stone? I'm like, oh God.
See, and you guys say it perfectly in the last episode where Marvel's Studios is finally starting to figure out that a lot of us are hardcore fans, and they're not, tying in directly into the source material. They're giving us subtle hints. They're not just taking direct storylines and putting them on film. They're changing subtle aspects of it to where we're like, oh, actually, that's different. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head here that's really different. I think like Red Skull in Endgame, or I guess Infinity War, Red Skull being the protector of the Soul Stone is something that's brand new. I've never heard of that concept in the comics. So that was a cool little aspect there to see that. And, obviously calling back Captain America, the First Avenger.
For sure. So speaking of Red Skull.
And on that note, I was gonna say that's a good segue.
Let's dive into our villains.
Before we dive in, I want to quickly.
Oh my gosh!
Pop
we didn't ask what you're
ask you
drinking.
what you're drinking. I am so rude. What guests are we?
No,
my mom would beat my ass right now if she knew I did not treat our guests like that.
I just wanted to drink. I just needed my okay.
Yeah.
That's why.
You're okay.
What are you
in
drinking?
my house, you never need okay. I drink every day.
On here every time we start. What are you drinking?
So this was actually given to me by a friend. They knew that I like Star Wars. Shameless plug. Episode 30 of the Oblivion Bar is us talking about all of our favorite Star Wars films.
I have some beef with this.
As I say, I knew you had some.
I enjoyed it because I'm not a diehard fan, and he has beef because he's a diehard fan, and they even say that. I loved that part. All right, so what do you got?
So I have a Logboat Brewing Company here in Missouri. It's called Leia, and I'll show you. I know that the viewers or listeners can't.
Oh man,
yeah.
Is she riding a shark?
It looks like she's riding a shark. Yes. So and it
so
looks like
look at that, Ryan Johnson. Even better than anything that you put out.
She's riding a shark with a freaking lightsaber.
That is dope.
That's amazing.
Tart Tropical Juicy. It's a Weiss style ale. So a friend got this for me very randomly. I bartend here in Missouri, and she brought it in very randomly, and I've been saving it for a special occasion. I feel like this is a perfect opportunity to dive into this. So here, I'm going to do this right here into the mic.
I love that sound.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful. That is a nice can. How's it taste?
It's good. Yeah. It's got a little bit, the tartness is definitely apparent. Let me get some stats here for you.
Oh shit.
It's
I was going to say, what's it?
5.0 alcohol by volume. So not terribly
not even bad. Yeah.
Yeah, not terribly overdone, but I like it. Yeah, I think I can only have maybe one or two of these, but yeah, I told you guys before the show. Yeah, exactly. I told you guys before the show. I've kind of gone into this weird rut of only drinking Bud Select and domestics. Yingling is my all-time favorite. I drink that a lot when I was in the military.
I
feel like it's making its way west now, though. So the whole country's about to get it.
Right. Yeah, which is amazing. Because when I was in the military, we got Yingling. Obviously down in Savannah, and it was like in Pennsylvania, and I want to say it was in Kentucky, but it's kind of slowly crept its way into Indiana, and it's not gotten to Ohio, and I don't think it'll ever get to Missouri because of Anheuser-Busch, but at some point it'll get to hopefully at least Ohio, and then I can just go across the way and go pick me up a 12-pack if I'm really craving some Yingling. So
yeah, we actually have a brewery here in Tampa, so it's not too far. But yeah, we've always had Yingling. I didn't know it was a difficult thing to get until I was in Vermont and somebody was talking about it. And I'm like, really, Yingling? But I remember when we slowly, all my friends started to convert to craft beer. It was like we get that Bud Light keg for 4th of July, and then one year we got a Yingling keg for 4th of July, and now everybody just brings freaking bottles to share. But Yingling's a great go-to lager.
I think
I'm not disappointed if that's
it's
one
like
of the
an
options.
easy summer lawnmower beer. You just sit out on the porch and just pound those all day, or you're barbecuing. You got friends over. I got like what do you call those?
on this day on Facebook, where they kind
Yeah.
of bring you back in
Yeah.
time, which are usually really cringy and terrible.
Oh god.
But I got I got one the other
2008
day.
me was awful.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to know anything I posted before 2014. Like everything before that can just be lost in the ether of
Let's
time.
just never talk about
Right.
this again.
But I got a post the other day that said, or it was just a picture that I posted for some reason, because I was a 21-year-old probably. It was just like 8 Yingling bottles sitting in a trash can, because I thought I was so cool that I pounded a hole.
You didn't recycle them? That's terrible.
Oh, no, of course not. No, definitely
Hey,
not. Not at that.
I'll have you know, Idaho doesn't recycle glass. So
Wow.
Wow,
Holy
did
cow.
not know that.
it's because this whole place is desert. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I get a lot on my Facebook memories, a lot of Budweiser pictures or a lot of comments about wanting to drink Budweiser. So, and Bud Ice. I've had Bud Ice memories as well. Which I can't drink that shit at all anymore.
The
But
new
we should
Bud,
move on to
the new Bud Platinum is getting really big here in Missouri for some reason. So it's probably just because Anheuser
Interesting.
owns the state. So
Yeah.
But I remember being at like Hal at the Moon probably 12, 13. I was still living in South Florida. So probably like 13 years ago. And they were like giving us free Bud Select. It had just come out. And they're like, here's a bucket of free beer, because they were trying to push it. And then I thought it had disappeared. I didn't even realize it was still out until you mentioned it.
It's still
right.
a thing.
Yeah, it's huge here. It's probably, I think it's only slightly less it's only slightly less popular. God, I can't talk. Slightly less popular than like Bud Light and Budweiser. Like your normal young adult, or someone who's like not trying to get all those calories
Underage.
that Budweiser has.
Oh.
Yeah, probably the underagers even. Like it's like a very in between of Bud Light and Budweiser. So.
Yeah.
I knew Bud Light Platinum. I remember my friends loving that for a while.
yeah, it's making a comeback.
It's so fancy. Okay, let's talk villains. No more
Yeah.
Budweiser.
Villains.
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 We all have a dark past, and mine's Budweiser.
So yeah, like we mentioned, there's bad guys, sure. There's your villains, like the Joker, probably not a good guy. He did some fucked up stuff. But then you got people like Magneto, who they kind of have a point. And I often find myself in the grocery store thinking Thanos also had a very good point, especially these days. God. So with that said, let's get into some villains that had a good point. I think, the first one that's going to be on all of our lists is easily Magneto, like I just said.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking that,
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
it's
he's
like
going to be on everyone's list.
the poster child of a character who, for a lot of people, agree with inherently. They don't even think that they're necessarily wrong. I mean, you think about a character who just wants his people to finally be seen in the world as an equal, and wants them to finally be able to strive. I mean, the current Jonathan Hickman run of Powers of X, or House of X, Powers of 10, all that stuff going forward, a lot of that can be attributed to what Magneto's believed all this time, which is that the X-Men deserve their place in the world. They're often like the black sheep of the Marvel universe, often being blamed for things or not having their place at the table. And Magneto has always wanted that. And I think that's a lot of it can be attributed to his upbringing there as at the Nazi death camp, his famous storyline from, I think, X2, or is it X2?
I think it was actually X. I could be wrong, but I think it was
the newer
X1. But
one.
then they also did it in X-Men First Class.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually is a callback from the Marvel Knights series, X-Men Magneto Testament. Have you guys ever heard of that storyline?
I
I haven't.
Yeah, it's just that. It's basically showing him his upbringing, basically in the Nazi camp. Basically sees his parents killed right there in front of him. It's kind of like his first time showing his powers inherently through the power of anger and loss. And then it kind of goes into him kind of moving on, raising a family or trying to raise a family, and then the ignorant townspeople eventually attack his small village town, which you do see. And I want to say
Days of Future Past.
Yeah. So yeah, it's Magneto. He's definitely the poster child for a character who, in a lot of ways, you would maybe not even see as the villain.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It also goes back into
Well, and I love how they've casted the characters too, that they're lovable characters. So it's like when that certain kind of casting, then we can actually see it on the big screen, which a lot of people only know them on the big screen. And so it gives you more, I feel the casting is huge. Like you never hate Ian McKellen or Michael Fassbender. Like you love both of them and you're empathetic to them, even when they're killing civilians.
Yeah.
One of my favorite relationships in the Marvel universe is that of Magneto and Professor X, because there's an obvious respect there throughout their entire history. They had a little bit of a falling out earlier in their lives, and one went one way, they're both, and one went the other. You know, they kind of one of the same, or two sides of the same coin, and you know they respect each other no matter what. And the times that they actually get together and be on the same side is often a very special time, i.e. going back to, again, Jonathan Hickman's run on X-Men. Currently they are the ones in charge of Krakoa and the X-Men people as a whole. And you love to see it. I don't know if there is a way to, because Professor X, there's a lot of debate about Professor X and his belief that the mutants are a superior race to the, Homo sapiens, the humans of Earth. And it's basically just Professor X going along with what Magneto's always believed, like I said earlier. And I think the best scenario, or the best scene that I can think of, is that very first scene between them in X-Men 1, where Professor X wheels by, and you don't really see Ian McKellen's face until the very end of the conversation, but they're talking like old friends before this is their first scene together too, and I love their relationship. I love the relationship between Magneto and Professor X.
Agreed. Yeah. It's like that brotherhood, like they both don't agree with each other's sides, but at the end of the day, there's that mutual just understanding between the two of them. I know that you're going to feel this way. I'm going to feel this way, and we're going to work together and right now, but I know what it's like when the dust settles.
Right. Yeah. They want the same thing. They're just going about it in wildly different ways.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
So I wanted to bring up somebody that maybe you guys might not have. I know Magneto is a definite, we could dedicate a whole episode to Magneto.
Oh yeah. Multiple ones. Yeah.
Yeah. He is obviously one of those characters that, like we talked about, it's known as one of the most sympathetic villains in all of comics. But someone that you might not think of, the first person that I kind of thought of outside of the obvious ones was Mole Man, the famous Fantastic Four villain. Are you guys familiar with Mole Man at all?
Not very.
I've heard of him, but I'm not very familiar with him. So break it down.
Okay, well, Aaron likes to make fun of me often about how much I love the Fantastic Four, and Mole Man actually shows up in the very first issue of Fantastic Four #1, written by Stan Lee, drawn by Jack Kirby, and it's Elder is the name of Mole Man, and basically he has this disformity, this look to him that obviously makes him look like a mole, and he wasn't even he didn't put himself out there as Mole Man. He was given the name by people he grew up with and people around him, and he was often berated for his appearance, and I think that kind of just drove him into a scenario where he felt like he had nothing but the option to go out and perform villainy. And basically I wanted to bring him up only because I think that once we do get a Fantastic Four film, whenever that is, I know they've announced it through Marvel Studios. Yeah. But I want, before we get into Doctor Doom, let's tease Doctor Doom in Black Panther 2, or let's tease him in the universe somewhere, because we'll get to Doctor Doom. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I'm wearing a Doctor Doom shirt here.
Look at this. The drip.
Nice. Yep. He's on my shirt somewhere, but yours is way cooler. Mine's multiple people.
He is my favorite villain of all time. But before we get to him in the Fantastic Four, because we're going to, let's focus on another villain. And I think Mole Man would be it'd be a great callback to the comics. And I think that you could turn him heel to hero, like a Loki, or like a, who's another one? Who's another famous, you could say Black Widow is one that was started off probably as a villain and then eventually made her way.
Yeah. We just never really saw her as a villain.
Different iterations of Catwoman too. Even,
yeah.
Yeah. You love that turn. You love a change of heart. You love because a lot of these characters are borderline, especially the sympathetic ones are borderline, are they doing this? What are they doing this for? They're doing bad things.
Vulture, that was one.
Yes, of course, like Vulture and Homecoming. They're doing bad things, but they're doing it for a good reason. And there's a lot of philosophical things to think about there. But Mole Man would be a great villain in the first Fantastic Four, and then they kind of rehabilitate him, give him an option to redeem himself, and then go forward with him potentially being some kind of hero, some kind of sidekick to the Fantastic Four.
Right. But yeah, I think at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, when they had him not say I don't know who Spider-Man is, I felt like they were doing that to get our sympathy. Yes, you have to protect Spider-Man. You don't want people to know, but I feel like that was, so we might see him again in the future. He might, end up being a hero. You don't know, especially right now, they're going to bring anybody and everybody back. It seems like.
I think they've already shown, it was the Morbius trailer. They show that Morbius and the Vulture meet up at some point in that film.
Yeah, he's in it.
we'll see him again. I think Michael Keaton signed like a 4-picture deal
We're gonna
with
get
Marvel.
the Sinister Six.
I had
the
heard that,
Sinister
but I feel like
Six.
some of this stuff I don't want to buy until Marvel actually announces it. Like I just feel like because they're even saying like there's no Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. What the hell are y'all talking about? Well, why does this keep coming out then? So
Come
it's like until
on,
Marvel
Kevin.
prints it, I'm like,
Haha,
Kevin, you old so and so, Don't be lying.
I actually had somebody on here who might not have made your list, and it's from a little known movie called Watchmen.
Ooh.
And the character is Ozymandias, actually.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, he kind of, killed a lot of people, things of that nature. But
what bad guy doesn't?
if I remember correctly, his whole purpose was he wanted to unite the world.
Yeah.
He just went about it in the worst way possible, but
he says kill millions to save billions.
And it's kind of like Dr. Doom, who's very altruistic almost. They have this end goal. Thanos is another one who, kill half the universe to save the rest.
Yeah,
you probably aren't going about it the right way, but at the same time, the intentions are there. So that's kind of one that came to my mind.
Yeah.
That's a lot though, with you have the villains and the heroes, and you see that in so many things where it's like the heroes are trying to save everybody, and in the end they might end up killing more people, whereas the villains are like, look, if these people die, you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet kind of thing. And that's so, I mean, you see that in so many things. So yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, that guy gave me the creeps.
Oh yeah.
It's funny that crack an egg to make an omelet quote. I've heard that from Ultron. I've heard it from Iron Man, and I've heard it from. I was watching Batman '89 last night, and Joker says it too. So that is such
the King of Hell says it in Supernatural as well.
it's a total, villainous. It's their way of
justifying their behavior.
Yes, exactly.
They all think it the same. It's just how you go about it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point there with Ozymandias. Like he even going into the new TV series there with HBO, it shows that this is a guy who wants best for humanity as a whole. But again, how is he going to go about it? He basically blames Dr. Manhattan for the occurrence there in New York, whether you want to believe it was a big blue light or a giant squid that they drop on the center of New York. Either way,
he had to.
He had to do it. He had to, because they were heading towards nuclear war, and
he's like, you should be thanking me.
Exactly, and to kind of, fully encompass this idea of a sympathetic villain. Many a times, they are saying something that makes absolute sense, like we've talked about with Magneto. Like these are characters. The best villains are the ones that you can go, yeah, I can kind of see where they're coming from. Kind of going to Thanos, like you said a minute ago, talking about how his life goal was to, kind of restart the universe and make it into something that for many generations could thrive. His going about it is way wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you're killing half the universe. There are people out there living. How do you get to decide? And it was up to random, sure, but
they could see whales in the harbor again.
Yeah. So, that was pretty cool.
Obviously, Thanos is going to probably be another one. He's on my list, of course, so he's probably going to be another one that we all can kind of agree you've got a good point, but you're just not going about it wrong. So, Hoppy, who do you have?
Well, real quick before we go on to, excuse me, sorry, Lauren. I wanted to.
No, you're good.
I wanted to say real quick on Thanos, then we can move on. His idea and his character in Infinity War and Endgame is a true testament to how impressive, one, Kevin Feige is in creating that character, and two, the Russo brothers and how they approach that character as a villain. Because in the comics, as you guys know, Thanos is often just a mustache twirling villain who just wants world dominance to either please Lady Death or because his biology requires him to always be striving for the Infinity Stones. And to give him the reasons that they gave him in those films was something that I felt like they gave a lot of depth to a character that needed it to work, So yeah, and I think we're not done with Thanos. I think once we get to the Eternals films, we're going to see it, because they talked about how
that's what I'm wondering, because they create the Titans.
I think it's. I could be wrong here. I know someone's probably going to be yelling at us while listening to this, but I think Thanos is a mixture of a deviant and an Eternal. Is that correct? Or I could be mistaken there. I think that he was a mess
I
up
was
at one
actually
point.
just reading Eternals, and it said something like you could be right. That does sound vaguely familiar. I can look into it, and we can put it in our "We fucked up last week" section, and I'll clarify it because I know I recently read that.
Mhm.
But it's funny what you were saying with the courting death is Marvel's so good too, though, at giving us those little Easter eggs to the people who read things. Because after the first Avengers came out, I went and got all the, the trade backs of the Infinity Gauntlet and everything. And I was reading it and I saw, oh, he's courting death. And then when I was rewatching that end credit scene where he's like, are we, the earth people are stronger than we thought, we shouldn't attempt that again. It's like courting death. And Thanos is like, I'll do it myself then. I was like, oh, that was so clever. I love that.
Yeah.
Such a cute Easter egg that I did not get until I read and then went back and watched.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why we're all watching WandaVision more than once as well.
True.
But
Yeah, they're definitely telling us all the things we need to know. We just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
Like in
Right.
WandaVision. Yeah.
yeah, sneaky little bastards.
So yeah, Hoppy, why don't you go and give us another one here?
So actually one of mine, I wanted to do a little bit of background on Baron Zemo before Falcon and Winter Soldier came out. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to do this because
That's a good one.
anybody who's seen Civil War, you can definitely empathize with this guy. He's lost his family.
Yeah.
And he's quite a genius. He lost his family. He knows there's no way he can defeat Captain America or Tony Stark. And Tony Stark, they didn't just drop his whole city and kill his family. They created Ultron. Iron Man created Ultron. And so he's genius enough to realize he can't do this. So he pits them up against each other. So obviously he's very empathetic in the movie. We definitely feel for him. I'm looking forward to seeing him come back. But when I did the comic book research, I didn't have much empathy or sympathy for this guy. He seems like a real dick.
Once again, the Russo brothers putting a lot of depth into a character who otherwise was just a Hydra, middleman, essentially. Like Baron Zemo is totally that. He is a character who just wants power. He just,
right.
And like you said, in Civil War, they gave him a backstory where you're like, you know what? If someone dropped a city on my family, I would probably go out and try to destroy him as well.
Seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the comic, I guess he's actually two people. So he's Baron Heinrich Zemo, and then he's his son. So his son, after he dies, his son's like, oh, I'm going to go defeat the Avengers because you killed my dad, when really it was the cliche of you were trying to defeat the good guy and you killed yourself. It's like, you see that in like cartoons all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a nobleman. He was a German nobleman. So he was very high up there. He was a scientific genius, and he created a Compound X, which I feel like that must be Garth Ennis making fun of Compound X, Compound V. So he created the serum that kind of makes him age slower and whatnot. And the purple mask is actually stuck to his face because he created some glue and tried to attack Captain America with it. And the Captain America broke it with his shield or something, and it got all over his mask. Now the mask is stuck to his face.
Right.
So, but yeah, he was Hitler's #1 scientist during World War II. And so people started to not like him, which is why he wore the mask to kind of hide so they couldn't see him. But yeah, he was working with Red Skull and Zola doing scientific experiments. And, whenever bad guys team up, other than an old man Logan, it doesn't seem to go well because they're all fighting for power. And that's basically what this was. You have a nobleman who's also very intelligent, but Red Skull and Zola aren't exactly doing what he thinks they should be doing. And from what I read and what I researched, there really wasn't much reason to be empathetic with him.
Yeah.
So he's not empathetic in his actual comic book origin, but in the movie, we can all agree.
Yeah.
Add a little depth to it. And like you said, I'm excited to see what they do with that character going into Falcon and Winter Soldier. And why is he back? Why is he achieved his goal in tearing down the Avengers from the inside out. So let's see why he's back and why he has the mask now also.
Yeah.
And also probably leading into, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but probably becoming eventually a member of the Thunderbolts.
Yes, I think that's what we're leading up to with Abomination coming back and things of that nature. Yeah, I think that's what we're heading to.
Yeah, how has Abomination just been dormant for, what is it, 2008 that movie came out?
They don't know what the fuck to do with Hulk, that's why.
Yeah, I think, exactly. Marvel doesn't know what to do with that film and that property. So they basically just left, everyone but Thunderbolt Ross in the closet until they can and I'm assuming until the She-Hulk TV series is probably when they're going to start to slowly trickle things out again. So I have another one here for you guys. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Image Comics comic saga. Do you guys like Saga?
That's my wife's favorite comic book.
Yes.
Is that the one we got the question wrong against Top Heroes that you should have known?
I did get it
because your
wrong
wife
that I
raised it?
should have known. We got the we got a portrait of the cat hanging up, made by the
Little
artist,
cat.
signed, everything like that. So yeah, I very familiar with it. Yes.
So Saga is when I worked at the comic shop, shameless plug, the Fancy Shop in St. Charles, Missouri. That's my local comic book shop.
Plug that.
Anytime that someone would come into the shop and say, "Hey, listen, I want to start reading comics. I don't really like superheroes. Do you have something else that you could potentially offer me?" And every single time, without question, Saga was my number one answer. I would honestly offer it to people who even like superheroes because it is just, in my opinion, I don't believe that there are perfect pieces of media. I think everything has flaws, and sometimes that's what makes it, interesting and easy, fun to dissect and all these things. I think if I had to pick a perfect piece of media, whether that be film, books, anything, music, Saga would be in that top conversation. It is without a doubt from the first issue to the 54th or 53rd issue. They recently just went on a little bit of a hiatus. It is just balls to wall insane, just so much fun. You really learn to love these characters, but that's a mistake because Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples are often killing off their really important characters. I won't tell you anyone specifically, anyone here that's wanting to read Saga, just don't get too attached to anybody, if I can say that. So one character I wanted to bring up was the Will, who you actually meet in the very first issue. And when he's introduced, he's attempting to hunt down and kill Saga's two main protagonists, Marco and Alana, and capture their infant daughter, Hazel. He's basically working for the robot clan that hire him. And while he appears to be kind of brutal and merciless, he has a definite moral code that he sticks to very strictly. And that is definitely seen where he's on a planet called Sexington. Yeah, like it's basically just a planet for sex. And this little girl is basically being used as a piece of property, and he basically kills everyone and takes her. And the Will, again, is presented as the main villain, the main antagonist of Saga, and he does do some pretty bad things. No spoilers, of course. He is someone that you kind of grow to care for a little bit based on some of the things that he has to go through throughout the storyline. And that's just a true testament to Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples and the almost perfection that they've created with Saga.
Yeah, it's a great comic. I recommend people read it.
Is it still ongoing or is it done?
Yeah. They're on a hiatus.
They're on a hiatus. They're gonna do another 53 issues or 54 issues, and they haven't come back yet. But there have been rumors that they're going to start here soon, and we're all excited. The people who have been reading Saga since the beginning. Here, I'll tell you this: I don't really collect single issues anymore. I'm very much more a trade paperback.
Yeah.
I was a really huge collector back in the day of singles and a Wednesday Warrior to the max. But
Wednesday Warrior, I like it.
One of the only comics that I have, one of the only single issues that I still have is my CGC 9.8 Saga #1.
Ooh, wow.
And I will keep that for a very long time because not only is it worth a lot of money, but it's also something that means a lot to me because, again, Saga is just, it's that amazing.
Yeah, so, for sure.
As soon as you said Image, though, I thought like, oh, I didn't list Negan, but I feel like that's another one everybody just kind of knows. Do they do his backstory in the show? I don't think they've fully done it, but they've done enough that I guess you have some sympathy.
Forever ago.
It's back. It just started back up.
I actually stopped watching The Walking Dead when they that first season when they introduced Negan. I think it's that's season 5 or 6.
Watching as well.
I don't even know, but yeah,
that's when I did too.
I stopped watching it after that. I don't like Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is a badass. Great. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
I just got tired of the show.
Absolutely, yeah. Too much filler. Where was it going? I know some people still watch it. I think actually, Hoppy, didn't you say that you're still currently watching it?
I gave up on it for a little bit, and then over quarantine, I was like, well, let me catch back up on it. And I was actually, because I thought it had gone down the shitter a bit, but no, I felt like it picked back up, and I was enjoying it. And then where it left off in, if you've read the comics, where it left off in the show was we had just met Princess, and now we're going and the Stormtrooper people. I always forget what they're called. I get all the places, the hilltop and everything mixed up, but yeah, so we just met the Stormtroopers and Princesses with them. But all the stuff at this point that happened in the comic, I feel like all the people that were alive in the comic are now dead. and we still don't know what's going on with Rick and everything. So, I mean, they just
Yeah.
started the show back up. I mean, it's not one that I'm like, oh, there's a brand new one, I got to go watch this. But, you
Sure.
know, I'll wait a while. I'll just keep rewatching Supernatural.
It's probably a good one to binge. It's probably not
Yeah.
one that you want to wait for each week because, like we talked about, they have filler episodes every,
Yeah.
they'll do a big thing, filler for 4, big thing for mid-season ending.
Yeah, there's
filler.
like 3 episodes
Yep.
to watch. It's the beginning, the mid-season finale, then the finale, and that's it.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So it's good like the last 10 minutes of an episode, and then they restart the next one, and that's a bullshit
Yeah.
10 minutes. And then it's good for 10 minutes. And yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
It's kind of like with the trade backs. I enjoy actually getting a few issues and then reading, as opposed to reading for 10 minutes and being done.
Absolutely.
I've got a couple, so I'll just hit a
Okay.
couple real quick before I get to the one that I really want to talk about. So obviously, again, Mr. Freeze is another big sympathetic villain because all he wanted was to bring his wife back, and Batman was kind of a dick about it. So that's one.
Heart of Ice is the
my
best
God,
Batman the
yes.
Animated Series episode ever.
Yes. Oh my God,
Like-
it is so heartbreaking.
Yeah, that whole monologue and that episode, which I think actually won an Emmy, if I'm not mistaken, that episode is iconic. I mean, the whole show, the imagery is iconic forever. I mean, if you look around this room behind me, I've got like 4 or 5 Mondo Batman the Animated Series posters. And they're beautiful. I mean,
It's my favorite
they
show.
absolutely.
down.
I mean, I think for a lot of us millennials who got into comics as kids, Batman the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series,
Yeah,
Fox
those-
Kids in general,
Spider-Man too. Spider-Man,
Spider-Man.
the original animated series, Spider-Man, that was another big one.
those all really drove that home.
Exactly. So
I
I've
feel like
got
got some
that.
amazing art in that room.
I've got
All right.
Ra's al Ghul, who's kind of an
Of course.
eco-terrorist. But, he's
Ah.
another good one. The Wicked Witch of the West, I put her there
He's
because
another
her
good one.
sister got killed.
Hello, my pretty.
Have you
Yes.
seen, I didn't read it, but have you seen Wicked? Oh my gosh,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
amazing.
Wicked?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the
Haven't.
book?
That's the big play, the book.
I didn't
okay, yeah.
see the book. It's the musical. So I saw
Yeah.
the musical. I heard the books are kind of creepy, so I didn't read
A
them. But
little bit.
the musical is absolutely amazing. I'm obsessed with The Lion King, and I thought Wicked was better than The Lion King. It's so good. And it's like
Sure.
people who aren't into musicals would enjoy.
For sure.
I went
Wicked,
to
it's just-
New York Comic Con a couple of years ago, and we had to decide between Wicked or Lion King. And my girlfriend at the time really wanted to watch Lion King, so I went along with it. But I wouldn't have mind to have seen Wicked.
I've been dying to see
I mean,
Wicked,
Lion
yeah.
King's good.
It is
but
good,
Wicked
absolutely.
was actually better.
I think that there's a lot to be said about witches. I mean, talking again about WandaVision, like the witch archetype, the character archetype is often a anti-hero, sympathetic villain because
Yeah.
they
Mhm.
often have things really terribly done to them because they're misunderstood or
They're
they
assholes.
they tempt the the priest of the town and get hung or stoned or whatever. And that's you like, I mean, again, spoilers for episode 8 of WandaVision, but that's essentially what happens to Agatha
Yeah.
so far as we know, that we know of. Was she was just kind of tampering around with things that she shouldn't have, and she got killed by her clan, or was attempted to be killed and didn't work out. But yeah, that's kind of like the archetype for
Yeah.
witches, is basically something terrible happening to them and then them kind of basically leaning into that terribleness.
For sure.
Yeah, I
yeah.
know. I think of my right.
So my the one big one that I really want to talk about, there's one villain who this is going back into your Star Wars here. It's Darth Vader,
Sure.
who is probably the most sympathetic villain to me. He's
Mhm.
probably my favorite villain of all time.
Mhm.
In the original trilogy, you don't really get a lot to base it off of, but reading
no, he's just a
novels,
whiny little bitch.
reading books, all that stuff, like watching the Clone Wars TV show, like, and the Jedi kind of lost their way big time, especially during the Clone Wars. They basically wanted him to go and be a spy, be a little punk bitch. They refused him to be master. His mom died. He kept like Palpatine.
He
Was
just
fucking
wants
with
to be a
him.
Jedi master.
Not even that, but like he fell in love with Padme, whether or
Padme,
not that
yeah.
was like a organic thing or George Lucas was just weird about it. But he wanted to save her, and it turns out he was the one who killed her, all that stuff. But the only thing he wanted was his family, but he
Mhm.
lost that. And so he was kind of lost. And then it turns out that Palpatine's just an asshole who treats him like an abusive dad for the entire original trilogy.
Like manipulated him for his power.
Yeah, he manipulated him
Yeah.
for his power. He regularly in the comic runs right now, he tries to kill him like every other issue. He's sending somebody to kill Vader. And he basically tells Vader, yeah, you got kids.
Right.
Like, don't be a bitch. And so the guy, like he's Anakin. All like
Did
again,
he try
all
to
he
kill him in
wanted.
the Christmas Lego one too?
Yeah, well, that plays into the comics and like all the story of Palpatine just trying to kill Vader for no reason because he thinks he's weak. After he lost to Obi-Wan, he
Right.
found him to be weak,
Yep.
and so he just wants him to die, basically. And it's fucked up, but
Right.
yeah, Vader to me is like the most sympathetic because all he wanted to be, he was a slave kid, and then he just
Mhm.
wanted to be a Jedi because he thought nobody can kill a Jedi. Well, then he kills all the Jedi, and he just
Master
wanted his
Anakin.
family.
Except for Grogu,
There's
he was
too many of
hiding.
them. What do we do? Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. That.
Yeah.
And they pan
That
away.
that is the number one sympathetic villain to me.
You realize if they had
Darth Vader.
shown that scene, you would not see him sympathetic. Like he would be viewed in such a different light if you saw the scene with him
I want to
murdering
see
the
Quentin
children.
Tarantino's version of the
Oh my
Order
gosh.
66.
Right.
It's like Bill killing the Padawans or the
Vader's just cutting
younglings,
up
whatever.
kids left and right. And you're like, holy shit, dude.
He's got like
That's what he did, though. It's like,
he's got some kind of like 70s pop song in the background of it too.
Yeah.
Like that's what
It's a
you know,
cantina
like
band in the background just playing.
Right.
And he's just like cutting up kids and shit.
well,
Sorry.
can I quickly go over two that I have a couple here.
Yeah.
I can kind of speed run this really quick if you guys don't mind. I said Two-Face. Obviously, he's someone who kind of fell from graces and kind of led himself to the dark side,
He had
going on Star
bipolar
Wars
disorder.
terms
He
here.
was unchecked.
Yep. He's basically, it's, if we go off the Dark Knight trilogy, and I guess in the comics as well, it's basically what Gotham does to good people. That's Two-Face in general.
Yeah.
We have Harley Quinn. Obviously, she is a sympathetic
Yeah.
villain because she's someone who got manipulated by her love of someone, the
Big
Joker,
time.
and she's often going back to him, trying to please him. And then the two that I kind of want to elaborate a little bit more on was number one, the purple man from Jessica Jones. I think that this was a character. Yeah, Jessica, kill
I love
Grave.
David Tennant. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, David Tennant's amazing, and I think that I'm assuming you guys have seen the first season of
Yes.
Jessica Jones, and
Mhm.
while he is very terrible, and I am not making excuses for what he did to Jessica because it is very bad, they make a real effort there at the end of season 1 to show that he
Abused.
was abused himself, and he also. Can you imagine being someone who doesn't know when someone's being like, he does not have one genuine person that loves him because of that. What is it like? It's like
It's like
micro,
mind control, but
yeah, it's like a micro particle in the
Yeah.
air that he kind of puts out when anyone's near him. He can just make them do whatever he wants, and he never knows when someone's being genuine and if someone really loves him because of his powers essentially, and
Mhm.
that's why he works so hard with Jessica. I think that definitely adds some depth to a character who otherwise is pretty terrible. And then number one, like we talked about earlier, and we've kind of slowly crept towards as the show has gone on, is Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is my favorite villain of all time. Obviously he has a terrible, tortured backstory. If you aren't familiar with Book of Doom by Ed Brubaker, please give that a read if you're a Doctor Doom fan, because it goes into that backstory of how he was basically on the run with his mom and dad and like a group of gypsies essentially. And his mom was eventually killed for basically being a witch. And then his dad dies afterwards. And he kind of has to take over this group of people from a young age, which eventually becomes Latveria. And it's elaborated much more in Roger Stern's Triumph and Torment, which has him basically team up with Doctor Strange to go up against Mephisto for the soul of his mother. And it's very heart-wrenching in certain parts.
Yeah.
Art by art by Mike Mignola, the artist of Hellboy. Really, it's a great storyline if you're not familiar with Triumph and Torment. Doctor Doom, really excited to eventually see him in the MCU. I think he is this. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think he's the best villain of all time. Any publication, any medium. I love everything about Doctor Doom, and I hope that they do him serious justice in the MCU once they eventually convert him over.
I have faith that they will.
Yeah, I think if you're going to really, if you don't want to mess up Doctor Doom, because he has the potential to be the next Thanos, if you will.
That's kind of what I thought they were going to build up towards, to be honest with you, but who knows?
Yeah.
And that's my problem with the Fantastic Four movies, is they always just want to rush him in the first movie right away and make him the villain. But no, build up to him, because there's a lot there to be unpacked, like you said.
Exactly. He's a sorcerer.
Well,
he's a scientist, and he's a genius. Like he's like everything. He's like Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and the Scarlet Witch all mixed into one.
But I
Yeah.
think one of the things that MCU is good about is like they didn't make us watch Uncle Ben die again. Like they know what we've seen. They know
Yet.
what they shouldn't just repeat. Like there's
Mhm.
nothing they've just regurgitated that we've seen before with Sony or Fox or anything that I
Yeah.
can't think of at least. So
Can I give you guys something that I actually have never said on my podcast? It was my way of integrating the Fantastic Four into the MCU via end credit scene.
Hit us.
Just if you could close your
this
eyes
is an
with me
exclusive.
and let me paint
Everybody,
this picture
we're
for you.
Let
going
us
on this
pray.
journey. Dim the lights. Here we go.
Put on a soft lo-fi tune. Okay,
Can't reach
so
my light switch.
Endgame closes. Okay, we get that final scene because there's no end credit scene at the end of Endgame.
No.
You just hear the hammer.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got the hammer for Iron Man. They do all that, okay? Cuts to black, okay? Then you've got all the remaining Avengers in New York City sitting at like, say, a shawarma or something funny like that. Like call back the first Avengers film. And then all of a sudden, they're all like poking, like Thor makes a joke. The Guardians make a joke. They're just going, they're kind of riffing off each other. All of a sudden, you hear this crash in the background of New York City, okay? They kind of like go into their uniform and they run outside. They look up in the sky and there's this blue portal. And this old 1960s spaceship flies through the portal and hits in the middle of like Times Square or something. And they all go up to it and they're all like kind of examining it. And then all of a sudden they're getting really close. And then an orange hand punches the center of the door and then it cuts to black. That's how I wanted them to introduce the Fantastic Four into the
That
MCU.
would have been good.
Yeah.
That would be, especially if we're doing like the multiverse, you can easily fold them in.
Yeah.
I like though that you said 60s. You're bringing back the old school one.
Mm-hmm. And then the first Fantastic Four film is actually in the 1960s. It's a period piece like Mad Men. And then at the end of that film, as they go up against whomever they fight against, whatever, it could be in space or whatever, it hurtles them forward into time and throws them into modern day. So, and then they're kind of like, these characters like that don't have any place in the modern world. I think that would be because let's be honest, the Fantastic Four worked best in the 1960s in that era, that Silver Age era of comics. Like that's where they're their best.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Agreed. Lauren, before we wrap it up, do you have any others that we've left off that you want to throw in?
You know,
there?
I got to do a shout out to Supernatural. I did have Kylo Ren in there. I won't go into that though. And Homelander as well. He's a terrible child, but I got to go with Crowley, man. He was done a little dirty in the show. When you meet him, he's king of the crossroads and he's evil and he kills some of their friends and he does some stuff. But then there's, I know a lot of people are actually currently watching the show, so I'm not going to spoil stuff too much, but there's something done to him that starts to kind of humanize him. And you actually kind of see like he really just wants to be loved. And you end up getting to meet his mother and you realize his mother is so just nasty to him, even though she ends up becoming a sympathetic villain in and of herself. She's a witch. And you end up loving both of them, but you just feel so bad for him. Like he truly feels like he has nobody and everybody's mean to him. And he really thinks like he does favors for the Winchesters and the Winchesters are going to eventually accept him. And they never do because they still just see him as a demon, even though he's been a little bit humanized because they've been done dirty by trusting demons in the past. But I did not like his send off in this show. I felt like, the show's over now, so everybody's been sent off. But I felt like he deserved more in the end. Of course, there were other characters I felt the way about too, but that's a whole other episode. So I'm going with Crowley. Fergus McLeod is his real name. I love him. He's awesome. He's actually in Doctor Who too.
Yes, he is. He is.
Mark A. Shepard. He's awesome. So
good one.
That's about it.
Is that the leader? Is that who I'm thinking of?
In Doctor Who?
Yeah, in Doctor Who.
He's the one, I can't remember. It's the episode where he's an American in the one and he has like a gun and he's like, welcome to America. It's the
he's
one
like the secret agent or whatever because they're in the White House, right?
Yeah.
That's the David Tennant era?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's the best one. That's the best one.
Yep.
So
yeah, he's my favorite.
As we wrap it up, Chris, hit us with any parting shots, anything you want us to know. Let the people know. The floor is yours.
Well, firstly, I want to thank both you guys for allowing me to come on here and talk villains with you guys. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of you guys' show, and I'm glad that we can make this happen. So thank you guys once again. If you ever want to come over and listen to Aaron and I talk about more nerdy things at the Oblivion Bar podcast, we, like I said, have new episodes every Monday. We are on all major platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all of them. We're on all of it. Just type in the Oblivion Bar, a nerd culture podcast. We're on Twitter at Oblivion Bar Pod. We're on Instagram. We actually just got a brand new Instagram because for some reason Instagram disabled us. We still don't really know why. They wouldn't give us a reason.
Huh.
So we are at the Oblivion Bar because our Oblivion Bar Pod account, we can't get into it for whatever reason.
Fast.
And then we're on Facebook / Oblivion Bar Pod. And then if you want to basically encompass all of this, all of our social media links, all of our different links for podcast platforms and such, we have a link page, which is really cool. It's like a digital business card essentially. Ooh. And that is linkapp.com / Oblivion Bar Pod. And I want to thank you guys once again for letting me on here. And hopefully we can do this again in the near future, talking about literally anything. I feel like this is the fastest hour that I've ever had on recording a podcast. So
agreed.
We can definitely do this again.
Yeah, no doubt. We're definitely going to do this again. Check these guys out. Seriously. Can't wait to have you guys back on or vice versa and talk a lot more. Cause I know we could have gone on for another hour just because it was easy money. And thank you all for listening.
Yeah. I want to talk about Ready Player One. So you definitely have to come back.
All right.
Aaron might be the one to talk about Ready Player One.
Okay. That was the one. Okay. All right. So tell Aaron to come.
Coming back with a Ready Player One episode eventually.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening. Catch us. You know where to find us on the Twitter, on Instagram every Monday as well. Monday, I say Tuesday, just because we drop episodes Monday evenings for some reason. But go ahead, follow us, like us, subscribe, share both us and the Oblivion Bar, and we'll see you guys next time. So, cheers! Thanks again, man.
Cheers.
This has been a Hops News production. You can find Hops News on all your favorite podcasts and social media platforms at Hops News. Cheers.